welcome back to the episode 13 of Money Making Mamas. I'm Nancy Wallace-Lobbs, co-founder and co-host of this podcast, and I'm joined by
Kelsey Leica,
who is also my daughter. So if you didn't catch it, we're a mother-daughter duo. Money Making Mamas is what we're all about. So Kelsey, I know you have a funny story you're just dying to tell, right? So a few days ago, we took the kids, who are 3 and 2, through a drive-through zoo, and it was very. So the zoo is like all outdoors.
Yeah.
Really
quick, it was spring break last week, and so we had our time and whatnot, and we were like, oh, let's take because both Zach and Brian were working, so I thought in my head, okay, we got to get the kids out of the house as much as possible, and so I was like, okay, well, let's go to the zoo, like the one where you walk around, and realizing it's spring break, that was an awful idea. So then we were like, okay, well, we found another one where you get to drive through it, and they give you little bags of like pelts, and you get to feed them.
It's called Fossil Rim. So
Fossil Rim.
Yeah, it's really nice. You should go there.
It is actually really fun
because you can get up close to the animals.
Yeah. So this was our second time going, and we took Bear last time. We were talking about this. I didn't even think I was pregnant with Toby when we originally took him. It was just Bear, and we went, and the cool thing about this place is it's near Granbury, which is where the lake house is, and it's just, it's really pretty. Like, it's on the cusp of like the hill country and all that, and the animals that they have like emus and different kind of deers and rams.
Ostrich.
So they have an ostrich, and they also have giraffes randomly, and you get to feed these giraffes. They come up to the car and everything, and so the first time we went, there was no one there. It was actually really nice. We got to like take our time. You turned around on the road. You got yelled at because of that.
By the park range.
Yeah, by the park range. You didn't get yelled at. But so we're like, okay, let's take the kids this time. We'll put them in the truck. You drove, and then I was in the passenger seat. And so I think being the second time, it wasn't Toby was going, but it wasn't like as much as like this is the first time for me at least. So I felt like I could like sit back a little bit. But those animals. So last time we ended was with the ostrich, right? Like the ostrich was at the end,
right? And
they're pretty like
aggressive.
If anybody has been to these things, and like ostriches are like on another level that I didn't expect. They're just and they're bug eyes. Like they'll just peck, and if your window's down, they're gonna peck you. Well, and remember last time I had a flannel, like my flannel in my lap, and they almost grabbed it. There was no pelts or anything. So anyway, I was telling Mom before this, I was like, I just am not looking forward to that part because the ostriches are they're just creepy. Anyways, of course, that was the first animal we encountered. It was just so funny though because it accidentally got Bear, and he was so strong about it. He was really brave, but the whole time he kept in the pamphlet like, boo boo, like would point
because the ostrich he had his little hand.
He got his little. Because
you can drive so slow that he was sitting on my lap, and the ostrich just came. Without just.
I think you were talking to. Not talking to me. It's not like you weren't paying attention, but
yeah. The next thing you know, here comes this ostrich just pecking at the whatever.
I think Bear had a pelt in his hand, but it just got his like finger. But again, he didn't cry. He was such a big boy about it. And then because of spring break, it was a little bit crowded, so we went a little slower, all this stuff. But when we got to the giraffes, I thought, so by the time we got to the giraffes, we're like 3/4 of the way. The kids are definitely over it. Toby's just kind of like sitting in the middle seat, like not really. She's just eating her own snacks. And, Bear kind of was going back and forth, being interested and not interested. So he was not interested at this point. So we're at the last of our pelts. And so I was like, Mom was driving, the giraffe was on her side, and I wanted to feed it. So I reached over or whatever, and of course, I'm filming too. And I ended up feeding it fine, whatever, all this stuff. Well, I guess it like just thought that we had more, ended up taking the.
It came in like I had the bag of peanuts or whatever.
Yeah, she had the bag of pelts by her, and I guess the giraffe just smelled it and just went after that bag of whatever, which in my mind I think I would have just like, okay, bye, like, but you it's the way that you're like,
and I guess she's gonna put this on social media, maybe, I don't know, because she filmed me talking about
the way that you're like, the sack.
Because the giraffe is pulling away and he's got the sack in his mouth, and I'm
Yeah,
also
I'm sorry,
trying
I don't know if I told that part, but the giraffe ended up taking the bag. And it's just this like brown paper like lunch bag situation. But you were so concerned about that sack.
Because
like,
I didn't want him to eat the sack. Because I didn't know if it would hurt him.
but the way that you like... It was just
I guess you had to be there. So people are probably going, okay. Anyway, Fossil Rim.
Yeah, Fossil Rim.
Yeah,
but we'll post the video so our viewers can see it if you're interested. Anyways, but yeah, well, can I tell the Falcon story really quick?
Yeah. Okay. Because it always happens to me.
So,
I'm a magnet for animals. I have animal magnetism or whatever. Okay,
no, but we always talk about like your Dr. Doolittle.
I am not.
You are, because even our own animals, like, so for our people out there, between the both of our families, we've had like 4 animals at one point, and they all just follow mom every day. So anyways, so the reason this is so funny is because, one, I guess he just had to be there, and also because way back when, I don't know, how long ago was that trip? We went when I was in college.
Yeah, so I'm probably, I don't know, maybe 8 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds about right. We went to Ireland, and we stayed at
Ashford Castle.
At Ashford Castle, which is very, very nice. I think there's been like several movies and films and all that.
At one time it was owned, it might still be, by the Guinness family.
Yeah, so it's this very beautiful, beautiful castle grounds, and they've obviously like turned it into a hotel situation. So anyways, we stayed there, and one of the activities that they offered was falcon hunt training. I don't know. But we ended up going with this guy who's super nice, and it was just the 3 of us, so me, mom, and Brian. And they give you, and if anybody's ever, I don't even know what you call it.
Falconing.
Falconing? Just falconing.
Falconry?
Falconry?
I don't know. You have a falcon on your hand.
No, you have the big glove on your hand, and like you hold out a piece of meat and they land on it, whatever. Falconry, maybe. I don't know. Anyways, so we're trucking through like the little Ireland woods, and this one, I think it was mine, I put a little chicken piece in, and again, we're filming this, and like I'm waiting for it, I'm like holding it and waiting, I'm filming my own arm, and all of a sudden you just hear swoosh, it comes over me and just lands on mom's head, and like she's wearing a hat, so I think it just wasn't stable. Thank God you were wearing a hat. But
because they have long talons.
But it's your reaction, and you're like, ah!
And I think if they go hunt Facebook, that's probably on there somewhere.
Oh my gosh, it's way deep. But yeah, so anyways, that's why this is just funny, because I just feel like, yeah, you are really, what's the Dr. Doolittle?
Animal magnetism. So I don't know. That was probably super boring for our listeners, though.
No, it wasn't.
Well, last time we talked about, contractors and, how to find them. And so I have found contractors from networking. So I thought it would be kind of cool to do like a segment on networking, because you network different than I network, and I think it is a kind of a generational thing.
Sorry, I had to get more comfortable.
I think during COVID, like, so much changed about networking, right? Because you had to do it Zoom, and you've helped me. We've run meetups. We've done all that, lunch and learns, and sometimes you get a lot of people, sometimes not. So I think networking, but I thought it'd be fun to talk about networking
Well, I think when you first also, and I feel like don't quit on us yet. The reason we're talking about this too is because when you brought it up to me, that's just not a topic or like a thing that I do a lot as a mom. I have been to a couple networking, but also as a millennial and like my generation, and I just don't network the way that you network. And a lot of the times the way we network now is through social media. And so I thought it was kind of a cool like contrast and then also to like, yeah, just how moms can also network because there's so many ways that you can network without just going to a meetup for a happy hour. So I thought that would be really cool just to talk about our experiences.
Yeah. And I think, there's purpose to networking, because you go to networking events for different reasons. Like, you can go for social, you can go for business. So when Brian and I, back in the day when we used to go to a ton of.
You used to go to a ton.
So many. I mean, we were going like 3, 4, 5 a week. we always had a goal because we were building our real estate investing business. So we would say, okay, we're going to meet a private money lender, we're going to meet a contractor, and we're going to meet a title company.
And really, well, and I know that you're like, you genuinely do like networking, but did you ever like feel like you were over going that much? Like, did you ever feel like you got burnt out going to that much, or did you actually like enjoy that part?
No, I really enjoyed it. I mean, because what I like about it is, okay, I enjoyed it to a point, and then you get to a point where like, okay, you keep seeing the same people over and over. So if that happens, then you kind of have to break out, because you can't really grow if you're just seeing the same investors, the same, So we would always have a goal like in mind of who we wanted to meet through our networking, and usually it was someone that we could do something with business, either refer business or vice versa. But we've done all kinds of different, like we went to, we've done, they're kind of more social events, but things that are not, we'll go to galas, like, and support a nonprofit, get dressed up, have a fancy dinner, and you can network. And it's not necessarily that
holiday
things. I like casino nights. When I see that, I'll usually go. So sometimes the networking, event will cost more. So then and there's a ton of them, right? You get to spend so much money on going to different galas and things like that. So I kind of pick ones that, we might only go to 2, maybe 3 a year, right? I don't go to a ton of those.
Like the ones that you actually pay for.
Yes. And then I joined. So then, of course, we're members of our chamber.
Well, and I was going to say, for anyone like that doesn't know where to start, that's a great place to start.
Such a great place.
Because even the couple of times, so I can only go, they obviously have multiple networking events, but I feel like the few that I've been able to go to in the 7 a.m. mornings, like I like it because people know relatively who I am, to a degree, right? Like not as much as you. But I also remember the people too. And I've even like been sitting at home and me and Zach are talking about something. I'm like, oh wait, I know who we could reach out to. And then you become part of like the Facebook groups and things like that. So I think that's a great place to start.
Yes.
If you don't know where to start.
Too. And I think it's hard for moms, especially if you're a single mom, to go to networking events. And so you can look for a network. Like I'm going to one tonight that's kid friendly.
Yeah.
So it doesn't always have to be at even if it's at a sports bar, some of the sports bar now have, entertainment for all levels of kids and things like that. And, I don't go for the whole time. So, I might only go, if it's a 2-hour happy hour, I might only be there an hour.
Right.
I kind of get in, get out, do my thing. But I also think networking is a good way just to have people know who you are when you're trying to grow. And it doesn't even have to be real estate investing. It can be if you have a candle business, if you have I met a lady, I think this is really cool. She has she does those balloon arches.
Yeah.
That's her business.
I love it.
And so now when I think of like, oh, I want a party, that's who I'm going to remember. I go right to her to think about that. I'm trying to think. So there's all kinds of ways to grow your business. You do have to network. You can't, I don't know anybody maybe they are out there. And if you are out there and you don't network and you're super and when I say successful, you're 6 figures plus and you don't do any kind of networking, let us know.
Yeah.
Because I want to know how you're doing it.
Right.
But how are people going to buy your services or know that you're selling something if you don't network? And like you said, social media is a way to network.
Yeah. So I think like one of the best things that I've felt like, so when you're starting an account, like on, let's just say Instagram, that's just kind of my go-to, but even like Facebook or LinkedIn, whatever it is, there's a way to network on there. And it's not necessarily like you're sending direct messages to people. It's just going through and following people that is in your niche. So if it is the candle business, okay, who else is there? And you're supporting each other. You're liking, you're commenting on their stuff. Because what I have found, especially with our account, especially in the very beginning when I was really trying to grow it, was then those accounts that I liked and commented consistently, I have no idea who they are, but they then came back and liked and commented on my stuff, which then pushes your stuff out on social media. So when I say networking, like obviously, yes, like you think of the traditional networking where you have to go to someone and say, hey, I'm so-and-so and I have this business and this is how I can help you. But nowadays too, just getting on social media and spending that active time being engaging and liking and commenting and, you know, reaching out to people or whatever it is, that is also a form of networking now that is free. You can do it at home. You can do it with your kid when he gets to have, you know, an hour of screen time or after they go to bed, whatever it is. And I think that's a great way for moms to network, you know, and that's the great thing about social media too.
And, you know, if you're trying to make money, like we don't have a ton of followers. I mean, I think last time I looked, it was like 225 or something. And then I have on my personal one, like 880 or something like that. So you don't have to have a ton of followers to make money. You just have to have quality.
Yeah.
So
or opportunities.
And opportunities, right?
Well, and I don't know if you've mentioned this on the podcast, but you've had several opportunities come from your social media for someone to reach out to you and say, hey, can you come speak at this event?
And I just had somebody that reached out to me. They're in California, and they are looking to buy a short-term rental in the Dallas area. So if you Googled my name or Googled short-term rentals, Dallas, or my name's going to come up. So I'm actually collaborating with another realtor, and we're going to help them. So I'm doing the short-term rental side of it, and she's going to help. You know, I said, okay, let's get them on a property,
right?
And he's buying a high-end property.
Yeah.
So you know, that just happened the last couple of days. So and then networking. So we talked about this. So I host a webinar every month, and so it's for a company called foreclosuresdaily.com. I'm a customer of theirs. I use their leads and things like that. So
and
they
really quick. That's how. So whenever, you know, our other Money Makin Mamas in our community, when they want to go and find a property, that's like one places that we help find them. It's the Foreclosures Daily lead.
Yes,
so when people ask us, this is kind of a sidebar question, but when people ask us like, well, how do you find your off-property markets and things like that? That's
and we have a relationship. So if you work through us, then we can get you a big discount.
Yes.
So, but they reached out to me and asked me if I would host their webinar, and I was like, okay, well, can I promote Money Makin Mamas? And they're like, yes. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So every month on the 1st, they have different speakers come in. And so I do it for not just, you know, what can we get out of it, but also it's been really good because we've gotten business from it.
Yeah.
People on there, because I kind of specialize in pre-probate leads. So I've had realtors as our clients. I've had investors, you know, helping with the marketing and that kind of the messaging to that niche kind of marketing. But part of the reason I do it is for the SEO. For my name is actually like Nancy Wallace Hobbs is the host. And then I'm meeting some really cool investors all over the country. You know what I mean? And so that's just another way to network. Because for me, also, in the old days, I used to say, okay, you know, who can I meet that's going to help me grow my business? So now what I do is I say, well, how can I help you grow your business, right? Because when you give, you get back like 100-fold. So, and I'm just gonna say one more thing about the in-person, because of what we do. It's money and real estate investing, and there's a level of trust.
Yes.
Right. So I think people, when they get to know me, get to know you.
Oh, you don't have to stop.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So there's a level.
Oh, no. Okay. Well, now we can't do that. Okay. So say there's a level. Start there.
Okay. So there's a level of.
Hold on.
Okay.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So one thing I want to say about the in-person networking is that, you know, with what we do and everything, there's a level of trust. And so I think when people see you and they know you're a real person and they get to know you. So I think that's another good way. But, you know, we're going to talk about some other ways to bring value to your networking, whether it's on social media, like, because you got to have something else to talk about besides your business.
Right. So talking about going back to collaborating really quick, because this is, I think, also a really cool tool about social media and how you can collaborate ones, but it's quite literally collaborating with someone on Instagram. So if you don't know, there's a feature where you don't just tag them, but it actually, so in the past it used to be, and I think this has been a feature around for a while, so if you don't know about it, this is for you. If you do, just hold with me for 2 seconds. But in the past you could just tag someone and it would show up on a different part of their profile, but it wasn't front and center. Like if you and I collaborated on like my account, whatever, it would show up on both of our profiles, right? This is something I learned whenever I had to do another Instagram account. But another great tool about social media is collaborating and networking with another profile. And typically the strategic move is to find, so, okay, we just talked about Money Makin Mamas and Nancy Wallslobs. So Nancy Wallslobs has 880 profiles. Money Makin Mamas has followers, 220 followers, right? So yours has the higher one. So when you're collaborating with someone, you want the higher follower count profile to post it and ask me, the lesser one, to collaborate with, because what's going to end up happening is more of your followers are going to see that specific post and it's going to get a wider reach. Whereas if I do it, it's a lesser reach because I have the less numbers. So that's a great way also, is when you do, like, you can collaborate with anyone on Instagram and just, message. You don't have to meet them in person, and just have that relationship, that virtual relationship, and ask for a collaboration. And hey, like, okay, could you post this, collaborate with me? And then it shows up on both profiles, but the one with the more, that's just a little strategic tip for.
Yeah. And so, and that's a good tip to know, like, when you're trying to grow your account. So, because we could get more followers. So if anybody's listening, you're not following us on Instagram, Money Makin. Go follow. So
get us up to like 300.
I like that. So I like that. And so I'm gonna like kind of throw something out, because we're working on a special promo. We should have it done by April 1. And one of the things that we're going to include in this really dynamite value add is an Instagram, how to set up an Instagram account for real estate investing.
Yeah.
Because in the old days, and we've said this before, in the old days, if somebody looked somebody up, they didn't go networking. They went to the yellow pages, or, maybe Google. But now, even older people that are selling their home use Instagram, Facebook, and you have to have a profile.
Yeah.
And you have to have a profile that basically meets the needs of all audiences when you're buying real estate, or you're trying to find off-market property. So Kelsey, because she's kind of an Instagram guru, is
social media, but
so she's written an ebook that we're going to be launching. So more about that later.
Yeah. So when you go to these networking events, like, what is typically the way that you, like, because for me, okay, I can just sit here and say, like, oh, I'm just a mom. Yes, I invest in real estate, but I just started doing that. But if you're having a hard time connecting with people, or what is kind of the things that you try to connect with people on?
So you know what my secret is to networking is asking questions.
Yeah.
So, and making eye contact, and using the person's name. So I'm going to give an example here. So let's say I just met you, and like, oh, hey, Kelsey, I'm shaking your hand. Very nice to meet you. What do you do? That's usually how I start. And then if there's a pause, I'm like, oh, okay. Well, have you, and I will start asking them I'm known, some people think it's annoying, but I ask a lot of questions.
AKA your daughter.
And, because people love to talk about themselves.
They do.
And they're going to remember, because a lot of people always think I'm a good listener.
Yep.
It's not that I'm a good listener. I am a good listener, but I ask questions because I am genuinely interested in, I'm trying to find out about your business and how I can help you.
Right.
And people appreciate that.
Right.
So, and then use their name. Like, oh, you know what? It was really nice to meet you, Kelsey. And then get their contact info and then do a follow-up. Now, I'm not a person to like really go and have coffee with everybody I meet, but I do like to do Zoom chats.
Yeah.
I'll do that. But one of the things I like to do is kind of bring some personal, you don't want to like, okay.
What's some of your personal?
Well, I mean, like I want to find out like maybe their hobbies or what they like to do when they're not working. Well, what do you like to do to unwind? That's one of my questions I ask. Then people say, well, I travel or I read. And then I'll say, oh, well, what book are you reading? So, because you and I both like to read. And, sometimes I like to read self-help books, or motivational books. Sometimes I just like a good old sloppy romance novel, an easy read.
Yeah.
Hannah Kristen comes to mind. But you and I are both going to be reading the Mel Robbins book.
Yeah.
Let Them,
which is like the first and only self-help book I've ever been like, oh, I'm actually intrigued to read this, because normally I like don't even know if I want to put this out on the internet, but we're here for it because if any of my other moms will bond with me on this, but I've recently jumped on the bandwagon of the fantasy, the fantasy. I'm just gonna put it like that.
Okay.
The fantasy.
You should just say what the name of the books
Well,
are.
I read the Fourth Wing series, the Fourth Wing and Iron Flame and Onyx Storm, and I was telling you the other day, and like again, I've always read, and I've read more of like the romance and especially like the historical romances when I was younger. I mean, like not younger, but like, you know what I mean? And like Twilight, things like that. Like that's the stuff I read. And then as I got older, I read the historical like romance. And then I took a break from reading because kids and life. And then I was like, well, I'm just going to jump back into reading. And I kept seeing everybody like post about this, like A Court of Thrones and Roses. So again, if like people don't judge me too hard. But anyways, I was telling you the other day that my book ended on quite the cliffhanger.
Okay, so no spoiler alert.
But it's funny because like it's like that stuff like I don't really want to bring to the forefront, but there are so many people that like it is clearly going around and people read about it. Yeah. And I have connected with a couple people, but
one of the books, like I'll get asked the question, if I'm on a podcast, and they'll say, well, what's something people don't know about you? And one of my most favorite books of all time, and I'm thinking of it again, I'm going to read it again, is The Thornbirds. And it's an older book. They made a movie out of it years ago. Mm-hmm. I don't even know if the actor and actresses are still alive that way, but it is like the best book. But it's about a priest that went the wrong way, and there's a color of this gal Maggie's dress is ashes of rose, and it always when and you have to read the book, it's based in Australia or whatever. That's one of my favorite all-time books. And then I used to read like Stephen King books. Yeah. I was like addicted. Yeah. But after I read I think it's It, I was like, okay, I've had enough.
Yeah. So you want to know something else that's funny that I've like clicked with people on is, and again, this is not something that you like lead with, that you're like, oh, hey, I really enjoy trash TV. So many people do though, and that's another thing that I've clicked with people on is I love me some good trash TV. I'm not talking like Bravo, like those.
But Selling Sunset,
Sunset.
Well, that was good. If you haven't watched on Netflix, it's like because
being such like catty girl drama too.
But like, as a real estate investor, a realtor, and you're like, okay, I would never be able to wear 6-inch heels to a construction site, and so it's like, okay, so it is entertaining, because it's about real estate, so that's why I like it.
Yeah. And then. Yeah, just like those kind of shows, because I don't know if like my mom brain at the end of the day just can't handle like I know the new season of White Lotus came out and I just can't handle it. Yeah, I think like not saying I can't handle it, but it's like mentally like when you have to like think about shows.
Yeah, you need one. So I recently, because I was sick a couple weeks ago and I had no energy.
Did you binge The Tudors again?
No, not that one. Temptation Island.
Oh yeah, you were telling me about it. I told Zach I want to watch it.
I was like, oh my gosh, and I just was like, now I would fast forward because I was like, really, and I think like being a mom, an older woman, like, would I have even acted like that when I was that young? And, and I don't think I would even, okay, call me old fashioned, but if I have to go to an island to see if my, maybe boyfriend, husband will cheat on me.
Is that the premise of the show?
Yeah, they are tempted.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. Temptation Island. So if you're like,
oh my gosh, don't spoil anything.
All right, no spoiler. But I'm just saying, like, the premise is like kind of like, who
like would really?
Yeah. But one of the shows that we used to watch, all you and I, when you were was The Mole.
Oh yeah.
That was really good.
And then, did you ever watch the newer seasons on Netflix?
Yes, but it just wasn't as good.
I know it's not the same, but it was still good.
It was still good.
Well, the second season, I thought the second season was better.
And The Apprentice, I love The Apprentice.
But did you see? And it's funny because I'm not gonna like get political, but it is funny because we used to watch Trump's The Apprentice, like the celebrity version.
Yeah,
and they just released all of the seasons on Prime.
And you know what? You can learn a lot about growing a business.
Yeah, I will say it was because that was like kind of obviously era before his like presidency and all that, and so I do think that was kind of like fun to watch. In that sense, I'm curious now looking back because another show that we used to watch all the time was America's Next Top Model. But did you watch? I think it was like Vice came out with, and so it'd be interesting to go back and watch America's Next Top Model, knowing
that they didn't really treat those girls very good. Yeah.
So I'm just curious, like if I went back and watched like some of these shows that we.
And then when shows get like for me, and we were talking about self-care and all that, and so sometimes watching those shows, your brain you just need to have that. It's almost like a massage for your brain.
The numbingness.
The numbingness of what.
Yeah.
And I recently just heard this, I guess it's about people that are depressed. And when they watch an old TV show over and over, because I thought of myself in the Tudors, they watch it over and over again. There's some calmingness because of the stability, the simpler times maybe or something. But
well, it's interesting that you bring it up because I think there's something out there too that is that same kind of concept of people watch, because like myself, I love to watch The Office and like
Gilmore Girls
and like but like the 30-minute, like the How I Met Your Mother's, like I've seen them multiple times, especially The Office. But I think there is something out there that says like something along like that similar line of, it's actually I don't want to say it's a form of anxiety because that's not, I don't think that, but it is nice because it's like you can predict what's going to happen, or not predict, but what's going to happen. So yes, it's that like
calmingness.
Yeah.
So I think it's just, again, like, because I watched The
it's
Office.
Familiar.
Yeah, and it's, it's still funny. Like, it's still funny.
Me and Zach love The Office.
Yeah, so...
Anyway,
so what is that? So anyway, about networking. So see how you can like really,
Yes.
you can get on a tangent. Now, I will say, if you're going to do true networking, like some of the best networking I've done is I belong to this women's group. And, we'll have a happy hour, we'll have a breakfast, and we'll have a lunch. There'll be like 3 different events every month. But one time they did like speed networking. And I love that.
Yeah.
So you sit across from somebody.
I feel like I would love that too.
Yeah, because, you only have a couple minutes to say hi, who you are. And there's a goal to it. It's like you say your name, your business, what you do, and what you need help with. Right? So it's very specific.
Yeah.
And then, so that's always good because you can, that type of speed networking I think is great because it's very specific.
So actually talking about that, because I think, because I have not been, and hopefully, if you're listening, maybe you can relate to what I'm about to say next, but I've been to a couple of networking events with you. And the thing that I have found is I am not the best small talker. And so, yeah, like when someone is on such a tangent talking about themselves, but then they latch, and it's like you can't get out of that situation. Like, again, I'm not the best networking person. Like, I don't have those communication skills maybe as like you do, where it's, so what do you do in a situation? I'm thinking of one particular one, and I hope you know it. I'm not going to say it, but do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
So what advice would you give to someone that, again, think back to the moment that I was in? How do you get yourself out of it? So you're stuck in this conversation. This person just keeps going on and on about,
and they don't even take a break.
Their situation. They don't take a break. You can't get a word in. What do you do to
Sometimes you have to be rude.
Yeah.
You literally have to say, oh, it was very nice to meet you. And I just cut them off.
Yeah.
Like if they just won't even let you get a word in and it's like, okay, this is not going anywhere. This is not. And I'll just say, you know what? I see. Or I'll try to be nice about it, but I'll say, oh, you know what? I really need to go talk to someone. I need to go I see a person over there I need to talk to. I don't even have to say their name. And say, it was nice to meet you. And then I just turn and go.
Okay.
So, and that's okay. That's okay in a networking.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think women, depending, because I've had situations where, it's not networking. It's networking for something else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so you do kind of have to, watch how I'm a very touchy person, a very feely, touchy,
touchy, like just on the
forearms,
like
on the arms or something like that. So I have to be careful though, because then if I'm like maybe sending out the wrong vibe or whatnot, I was at a networking event and sitting next to this person, and they put their hand on my leg, and I was like, okay, I don't think so.
Right. Yeah.
And so I just like, and I made kind of a joke of it, and you could do a lot with humor, but. It does kind of come, especially if you're new, because you have to remember, like most networking events are like an hour, 2 hours. So what's the purpose of you going? And then just stick to your purpose.
And if it's not benefiting you, I wish in that moment, like, I think, again, it was like my first one in quite a while. So now I know, and that's actually a really good tip to be like, oh, I see that person. Because again, you're only there for a limited time. You're not there for 5 hours. And in that moment, I should have just luckily we were cut off by something else that was happening. But those situations are hard, especially when you're not used to the networking events of just being nice but rude.
Yeah.
Or rude but nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like just trying to remove yourself from a situation. Like you're not going to do business with them.
Yeah.
They're not going to, because you have to kind of find that commonality, right? Because I know there's been a couple times where I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I'll say, oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
But usually if you ask well, how can I help you? That will really like kind of hone them into what it is. So, there's some, I'm trying to think of like an attorney.
Yeah.
Well, how can I help you? Well, they may need somebody that needs probate.
Right.
Or maybe they write contracts for investors. You know what I mean? But if they're a family divorce, I'll just kind of take their card and say, okay, well, I don't know anybody that's going through a divorce right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so usually for me, for networking, I'll ask the question, how can I help you? And that usually is then reciprocal, right? So that's why I like the speed networking, is because if you can get people if you can say, I need ABC, then people know what you're looking for. Because when we go, people go, oh, Money Makin Mamas, because our name is catchy, right? And they're like, oh, and they remember, oh, that's the Money Makin Mamas. They don't really know what we do, though, or how they can help us. So, and we've worked a lot on you have to have a pitch, a 30-second pitch,
right,
and get to the point of what it is that you need or want or whatever.
Yeah. So what would you say is like, because I remember when we went, like, I think that you had said, like, make sure you get cards or something like that. So what is your maybe top 2 tips for going to networking events? Like, obviously you have a goal, and that goal is to get leads. Like, that's the purpose of networking, is to build your
or get
your
referrals,
network, or referrals, whatever. So what would you say is the top 2 things that you would?
So I like to get cards, because you don't have time to really get into a depth conversation. And if I feel like it's somebody that either I can help them or vice versa, then I don't try to set up anything. Number one, I have to wear glasses so to get my phone or whatever. And so when people I'm old school, and I have paper cards. I know a lot of people are going to digital, but you know what? People still have business cards.
Right.
So I try to get their business card. Now, if it is digital, what I do is I say, hey, because sometimes those digital things, once they go onto your phone, I can't find them.
Right.
So I'll take one of my cards and I'll write maybe just their email or phone number, and I'll make a little note. Then when I collect the cards, usually the next day or two, then I will send them an email saying, hey, it was very nice to meet you. We have a CRM, so we actually put them in a little funnel, right? To say, okay, hey, it was nice to meet you at whatever event it was. And then the next email might be about, oh, hey, did you know that we have a podcast?
Right.
And we're looking for people to be guests. Do you know of anybody? And then the next email talks about how we like to support nonprofits. Do you know of a nonprofit that would like us to come in and speak? So it's all about, just kind of getting them to remember. Then the next time I go to the networking event and I see them, oh, okay, all right, and then a word of caution about networking, because people will, once they know you're out there and whatever, you and I have been asked multiple times to sponsor events, which we're happy to do if it's aligned with what we do.
Right.
Because you can spend a lot of money on events that it's not going to benefit them. It's not going to benefit you.
Right.
So, and we've done some where we're like, okay, we should not have paid money to be here. And we've paid money where we're like, wow, this was really cool. We got a lot of exposure.
Yeah, we did.
So that's all good too.
Yeah. So basically walking away with like a business card. I will say though, it is kind of hard because I'm someone that like I have multiple purses. And so I know the last couple that we went to, I like literally handed them over to you and I was like, here, take them. They can't be trusted in my house. Literally Bear emptied out one of my bags yesterday on the kitchen table. Anyways. But for me, one thing that I noticed that was helpful is like, I don't have a digital business card and like, all that. It's kind of, I don't know, it's frustrating to deal with, but it's just connecting with them on social media right then and there. And like, whether that's a follow on Instagram, a connection on LinkedIn, whatever it is, I've started kind of doing that too. It's just like, hey, like follow us, and that's honestly what I've led with at some of the networking events, is that we're small, we're small and we're just getting geared up and really love like the audience. And so follow us on Instagram. That's the best thing that you could help us out with. So that's a little tip too. You don't always just have to go into it with like, I need to get a new client. Sometimes it's just a new follower.
Exactly.
So I think networking, like when you take the pressures off of it, Like, it really is. Because I know for me, like, I am not the social butterfly. Like, you and Zach are such good. Like, I always joke. Like, Zach has come with me to a couple, and he can click with anyone. He's in sales. So, like, that's what he does for a living. But I think myself, I put a lot of pressure on networking, and it really is just going and connecting.
But then the times that you've gone with me, I mean, people are just attracted to you. They talk to you, and you do a very, very good job. So I don't think you give yourself enough credit. And, you just should have fun, because at the end of the day, it's, you're going, and if it is a happy hour, you can have a glass of wine, have a little tidbit. I like breakfast networking because, have some coffee, just talk or whatever. And I think too, finding the right networking, because I've been to some where I'm like, okay, I'm out of here.
Right. Yeah. And like, you don't have to stay for the whole thing.
Exactly. No judgment. Most of them are come and go or whatnot. And also, I mentioned this earlier that some of them are kid friendly. Like sometimes they're at a pizza place.
Yeah.
Take the fam and, set the kids down, go. And people do that because, I mean, that's life.
Yeah.
Right? And your kids can learn, oh, okay, mom's like going to go here or talk here or whatever. And most of the time people find it adorable. Yeah. Now, if your kids are like screaming and throwing things, okay, that's a different story. But just have fun with it and find your community that you can, and you might have to try several. But, I think like you said, joining the chamber is good. Within, I'd say, 6 weeks of joining, I think that the Frisco Chamber is about $400 a month, and with the first 6 weeks, we got a client and more than paid for that. So it's not expensive, and it's just really good exposure.
Yeah, and we mentioned this like kind of, I don't know, it must have been one of our very early on episodes. But really, like, I feel like being an entrepreneur is all about putting yourself out there. And one thing that I've learned this past year, so I think for moms, it's actually kind of hard to like have your community and like have friends with like-minded stuff. And the thing that I found myself in was I had to have like a serious like mental shift of like trying new things. But like, that's kind of what led me to reading the fantasy books, is because you never know who you're going to connect with. And then I ended up enjoying them. So, and then like, I'm huge into fitness, and like, I think the more stuff you are involved with at your bandwidth, like try it out. And if you like it, that's a great benefit, but also too, like you have more to connect with people on. And like, the more, so I think what I'm getting at is taking time for yourself as well. And like how important that is. Like we're talking about networking, and not saying you have to go to like 4 networking events. Like maybe it's just one a month. Like that's more than anything. But taking time for yourself as a mom and as an entrepreneur, and how important that is. And then trying new things. One of the other places that I think was great for both business but also friendships and whatnot was my mom community that I joined 2 years ago. And that's, look into mom groups around your area, because when I made the decision to put myself out there and then go and try it, it put me really out of my comfort zone, but it ended up, it's so beneficial. So just taking that time, like try a new hobby, like, and one of the things that, again, I mentioned it way early on, but embroidery.
Yes.
Like I think even 3 years ago, I would have never imagined that I'd be like embroidering, baking my own pizzas at home, and reading some fantasy books. But here we are, and weightlifting, right? But these are all like things that I enjoy, and I tried it, and it was a new thing. Didn't think I would like it, didn't know the outcome, and now here we are, and I've been able to relate with a lot more people because of my different hobbies.
Yes, and it just gives you more confidence too. Because when as moms and as women, we take care of everybody else first. Yes. And when you're an entrepreneur, there is that, and we're going to have an episode about this, about it's lonely at the top.
It is.
And sometimes if you don't have friends that are, in the workforce or even trying to start their own business or whatever, it's hard to relate.
Yeah.
And here you are, you're trying, especially if you have littles, And then as your kids get older, you know, maybe you volunteer more at the school,
Right.
because volunteering is also another way to network.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You know, so because I always say you never know, like in our business, I talk to anybody and everybody about what I do, because you never know who has a house that they need to sell.
Yep.
You know, that their parents, you know, need to move into a nursing home or whatever it is. And so that's just how I go about my networking. But, you know, I've done that for many, many years now. But then volunteering is just another way to give back to the community, but it's also a form of networking.
Yeah.
So networking doesn't mean you have to go to the sports bar and have a drink and, you know, do that. You can volunteer.
You know, another place too, like just, and I think also just networking with one other person. So Ubers.
Yes.
That has been like, so it's so easy for me just to like play on my phone and not talk to someone, but I've like actively had to like put myself out there and be like, you know, how's your day going? And then it sparks this conversation. We've had several people that we've talked to.
Yes.
And that's how we got to know them and so just, I know it's easier, especially this day and age that we have a computer in our phones. It's just easier to like not look up and like, or talk to someone. But in those moments, it's
well,
like,
you should give Sierra's Coffee House a shout out, because that was a networking event and you met her on the plane.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we are definitely going to have her on the podcast, but one of my really good friends now, we met on an airplane and literally sat next to each other. And I could have easily just put my headphones in. She could have done the exact same thing, but instead we had a common ground. She had two of her kids with her. And, yeah, we just clicked. Like, you know, we just started talking and started asking questions to each other. And, you know, now we're really good friends, and she's opening her own coffee shop, and she's got her own permanent jewelry business. So we're definitely going to have her on the podcast.
Yes, she's an entrepreneur. So yeah, and again, that was a form of networking. So, so what we're saying is that you have to kind of get yourself out there, but then it's okay, because I think moms feel guilt about taking care of themselves.
Right.
And, you know, and it does cost, I mean, sometimes it costs money to go get a facial, right?
Yes.
Or time. But I remember when I was raising you up and I didn't have a lot of time because I was a single mom.
Right.
I would give myself a facial at home. You
Yeah.
know, and you can buy, you know, you can go to Walgreens and buy a mask and whatever.
Yeah.
And just doing that, and then, you know, putting your mask on and watching your favorite show or whatever. Having a glass of wine if that's you, or a cup of tea.
Yep.
Just, you know, even if it's 30 minutes,
Yeah.
just to unwind and make it about you.
Yeah.
So
and you'd be surprised, like the time that you give yourself, then the outcome of that. You know, you'll feel refreshed to go meet someone new, and then all of a sudden you guys can talk about facials at home. So
yes,
I think that's a great, yeah, just taking time for yourself.
taking time for yourself. It's all about the networking and taking care of yourself.
Yep. Well, I think that's all I have.
That's all I got. So what should they do, Kelsey, now that they've listened to our 13th podcast?
You should go ahead and pour yourself a glass of wine and then follow us on all the social medias, or get yourself coffee, but depending on the day, I guess. Follow us on all the social medias. That will be super helpful. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Like and share this with someone else that you feel like could benefit from just hearing about networking and kind of giving time back. Or, hey, if you want to bond over some reading literature, let me know.
or
you know
some
what,
trash
TV.
Everybody should drop down in a comment what they're reading right now.
Yeah.
That'd
or
be,
watching.
Or watching.
Because
right.
honestly, if you're not reading right now,
or
then
audio.
no big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So reading, watching, whatever.
What are you doing to fill your time right now?
Yeah. Oh, that's a better one. Okay. So ixnay all of what we just said. Drop a comment below and let us know what you're doing to give time back to yourself. Whether it's like 5 minutes or an hour. Like, what is it that kind of fills your cup in the day?
Yes. Okay.
Love to hear it.
All right. Very good. Well, hey, Kelsey, thank you so much. Love you.
Love you.
All right. Next time.